Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Accounting 1B. My name is Jose Nava. I will be your instructor for the next several weeks. In this presentation, what I call an orientation preview, because this should be done before you actually go to Module 0, which is the orientation for this class. I wanted to give you some sense of what to focus on as you go through those pages in Module 0 again. In this presentation, I will talk a little bit about the deliverables for your final grade, including the course outline. I will also provide you with some thoughts about your timing and the due dates of the class, how to approach the class, which I refer to as the weekly approach, and also your first tasks that are obviously part of your Module 0, as I mentioned before, and also how to start your Chapter 10 work. And I will give you some final thoughts at the end. The first note that I wanted to provide here is that these slides are basically a duplicate of what you will see in the syllabus and in the orientation, but in much less detail. So it's more focused, and that way you can actually get the gist of it and know how to approach the actual module itself. The other thing I wanted to mention here is that if you once you go through the presentation, you should also review the syllabus and also do this throughout the quarter, so you can actually keep up with or remind yourself as you go through each of the weeks what's due and when and things like that. Also, message me via the inbox inside of Canvas. Do not email, please. Those emails get lost, so the inbox is designed for that purpose, is to keep your private messages in one single place. Let's see what else. Let's go to the next slide. Here's the course outline for the quarter in weekly modules. As you see, the week 0 and 1, which this basically I say that because it's basically the beginning of week 1. You'll be doing your orientation module, which includes some tasks. You're going to have, after you read and review some of the materials in there, you will see a page that asks you to fill out a few questions, a quiz, and then once you do that, you'll be able to move forward to the other parts of the orientation. You're also going to be submitting a bio, a registration for my lab section. I'll talk more about it in a bit. That will be your first few tasks for week 0-1. Now week 1 continues and you begin chapter 10 at that point. And as you can see, chapter 10 relates to plant assets, natural resources, and intangibles. Chapter 11 is covered in week number 3, current liabilities and payroll. Chapter 12 is partnerships. And as you can see here at the end of chapter 12 or week 4, you will be going over, or you're going to be completing midterm number 1, which covers those chapters 10 through 12. Then you go on in week 5 to do corporate transactions in chapter 13. Week 6 and 7, 2 weeks for bonds, which is probably the most challenging chapter in the whole sequence here. So that's the reason I assigned, or I allocated 2 weeks for that chapter. Then chapter 15 in week number 8, investments. And that brings to an end the second part of the class, which will then be reflected inside of midterm number 2, which again covers chapters 13 through 15. Week 9, that's when you actually take the midterm exam. It's going to be the first part of week 9. And then I'm also going to be releasing the team project instructions. Week 10, chapter 16, statement of cash flows. And then chapter 17 in week 11, financial statement analysis. At the end, week 12, there's a project due. You're going to have to deliver that on that. It's probably going to be Tuesday of that week. And then the final exam will open up and close on Thursday of week 12. So make sure that you plan your calendar according to that sort of schedule. And again, go review the calendar for more detail. Just a little bit about the specific assignments. I will not go into detail here. You can always check the syllabus. The reading check is going to be a little quiz after each of your chapter reading. They count for 1% of your grade. There are 8 of them, 8 chapters. 6 of them will count, 2 will be dropped, so 6% of your grade is reading checks. Your homework is, again, 8 chapters. There will be 8 of them. Only 7 count. The lowest score will be dropped. So 21% of your grade comes from your homework. There's going to be a single class participation posting per chapter per week for a total of 10. That will earn you about 4% of your grade. Note that there's only one required for your class participation grade. Obviously, the more you post, the more engaged you are, the more you will learn the material. So I highly encourage you to do a lot more than just simply the one posting per week. Moving forward, in terms of the other components of your grade, you have the class attendance, which is basically, I asked you for 3 logins. Only one of them will actually count as your grade. That will be due each Tuesday. Hopefully you do it on Monday, which is probably best to go in there on the very first day of each week. That will be 1% of your grade. Midterm exams, 1 and 2, that's 16% each, so 32% of your overall grade comes from the midterm exams. The final exam is assigned 26% of your total grade, and the project will have 10%. Notice that there's a little bit of information about each of the exams in general. What's going to be the content of the exams, and also that I will be sending you an announcement with some information about the exams a few days prior to the actual opening of the exam. Also note on the top right, you see that there's a note. So I always make this point because I think this is how you secure the best grade possible, is by taking advantage of the easy points. Reading checks, homework is unlimited takes, unlimited time. So there should be no reason why you wouldn't be able to just get all these 32% of your overall grade. So 1/3 of your grade are what I call easy points. So make sure you do that, because at the end you may need a 0.1 to get to the next grade level, and there will not be a chance to make up that point at that point in the quarter. So take advantage of these opportunities throughout the quarter. Note 2 says that there's no extra credit. At times I do add a few opportunities for that, but keep that in mind as we go forward. I will also mention here that your primary source for the content for your class is your textbook. So that's what you need to rely your work on. But there will be other sources of information that you may also want to use if the textbook is not enough. So there are plenty of materials in my lab, in the multimedia library, that will actually give you other ways to learn the material. I also include my own lecture notes, the author's lecture notes, Excel handouts, answer keys, and videos within each of the modules. So you have these as additional resources to earn your grade, or to learn how to do the material to earn a good grade. I would highly recommend that you actually obviously go through through the modules in sequence and do take advantage of these opportunities or these resources. There's also external materials, so be resourceful. If there's some other things that there's things that you don't understand, and maybe the material in the class is not enough, you can always go outside of the class and get some materials there. YouTube is great. There are other websites I'm sure that you can rely on to get more information on that. Notice here at the bottom, I do say you decide how much and which resources you rely on a weekly basis to learn the material. It is up to you. You have plenty of materials. You have more than you can actually cover on any specific week. There's too much material. Make sure that you kind of explore some of the materials that are available to you, and then decide which ones are good for you. Your final grade is solely based on your scores you achieve in MAL and other assignments that I might score outside of MAL, like your project, for example. The syllabus has a class calendar that lists all your assignment items. They include due dates. Those are the due dates that you're going to be what really matters. There will be There will be some due dates in my lab at times that are not inconsistent with the class calendar. That's because sometimes I extend those deadlines, and they're different. But the ones that really count is the class calendar deadlines. So that's the reason I say that. Deliverables are controlled, the due dates of deliverables are controlled by the class calendar always, unless otherwise announced. All due times are 11:45 p.m. For basically all deliverables throughout the quarter, unless otherwise announced, obviously. The work week runs from Monday at 8 a.m. through Friday at 12 noon, even though I do extend some of the deadlines for your submission for the different deliverables for the weekend. The actual class runs from Monday through Friday. Here's a little more on that same point. Again, beginning of the week, I will send an agenda out, giving you what's due in that week and maybe other information that applies to each of those weeks. If there's an issue with the technology that is systemic for the whole class, I will extend deadlines throughout. But if it's individually issues technologically with you, then we have to deal with that individually. And most of the time, there will not be any extensions on that unless it's really systemic. I want to say here that please, again, no email. Do not email me, and don't voicemail. I'm actually in New York now. I'll be here for a while, and so I am not checking voicemail. So use Canvas instead. I will respond to your inbox messages pretty often. There's a 24 to 48 hour deadline to respond to your messages, but I do that actually much quicker than that. So just use Canvas, and I'll be able to get to you pretty quickly. Let's see. I do make announcements, so you can read that on your own. The end of the week, again, is going to be Fridays at 12 noon. Here's a number of steps that you can follow to approach the class. This is my suggested approach. I will not go into detail at the moment in this video, but this presentation will be posted on the home page. You can go back to this presentation and read this through. Any questions, give them to me inside of the orientation discussion thread under Module 0. And here are the tasks for the orientation itself. Notice that I'm asking you to, once you go to Module 0 inside of Canvas, there will be several pages. It includes a presentation for the orientation for this class. Make sure you go through that in total. Then you'll be having to submit a required quiz that relates to the actual orientation itself. It's very quick. It's probably, I think 7 questions. It's very easy. You're also going to be posting your brief bio in one of those pages and respond to 2 of your classmates as well. Finally, you're going to be doing the registration into my lab section, and there will be, again, in the orientation, a section on how to do that. The orientation itself has tours of Canvas, my lab, and so you can actually sort of learn how Canvas is set up and how my lab is set up through those segments of the orientation presentation. And finally, with respect to the deliverables for the first part of the class, you're going to be beginning the class with Chapter 10, and Chapter 10 is covered over weeks 1 and 2. Week 1, you're only required to submit the reading check based on your reading of Chapter 10 by Sunday of that first week, and then follow up the following week, week number 2, with the attendance check in the first one. It will be 82. You'll see that in the module for Chapter 10 for week number 2. And then you'll see also a place to submit your homework 10. And it's actually an embedded page from my lab, but it's actually embedded inside of the module for Chapter 10. There's also several discussion threads. Make your single discussion posting in any of those threads for your class participation grade, but again, the more that you participate, the better. And some final thoughts. I'm not going to go into detail here. I'll just cover a couple of things. Stay engaged. That's the main point here. Advance your work ahead of the deadlines. In terms of other things, use your low score drops strategically. You will probably, some people may make it 6, some will have some issues with technology. There will be some other reasons. So don't just drop because you don't have you don't want to do it. I think it will be better to, use the low score drops for whenever you actually need it. There will be a drop deadline for, the class, which is always the second week of the quarter. By the end of that week, if you drop, then you actually don't get even a W into your transcripts. Now, if you stay in the class, you will need to drop the class by Friday of the 8th week if you want to actually drop the class. That's called a withdrawal. Beyond that 8th week, neither you nor I can actually get you dropped from the class. Keep that in mind. It's an important point to always keep in mind. At the beginning of the class, in the first week, actually, there will be some no-shows. And so if somebody does not log in and complete the orientation tasks, including Chapter 10 reading check, then that's considered a no-show, and they have to drop that person from the class. Finally, any inactive students for any 7-day period without notice is also dropped from the class. Use this opportunity to network with your classmates. It's a kind of an important thing to do especially if you're in the business field. Let's have fun. That's my last hope, that you actually use this class to meet people and have fun doing some accounting. Okay? So any questions, go to the orientation module underneath. There will be some discussion threads for any of your questions. Take care. Have fun. Enjoy.